Have you ever agreed to something on a whim that completely altered the course of your life? That's exactly what happened to me last spring, and I'm still reeling from how one simple yes transformed everything. If you've ever wondered whether fate is real, stick around until the end. I promise it'll be worth it. And if this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life adventures that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. It started on an ordinary Tuesday. I was hunched over my laptop at Riverside Coffee, the same place I'd been working remotely for months, when my phone lit up with a message from Maya. We'd been friends since college, 7 years of birthdays, breakups, and everything in between. Maya was the kind of friend who knew exactly which ice cream flavor I needed after a bad day and could finish my sentences before I even started them. Emergency, her text read. Need you to be my date for the company gala tomorrow night. Please say yes before I explain why. I laughed, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Maya's emergencies were rarely actual emergencies. Last month, she'd needed an emergency opinion on whether bangs would suit her face shape. The month before, she'd needed emergency help choosing between two nearly identical pairs of black boots. What happened to that guy from your gym you were seeing? I typed back. 3 dots appeared immediately. We broke up. And my boss's wife is trying to set me up with her nephew again. I told her months ago I was seeing someone serious to get her off my back. Now she wants to meet him. Please, Alex. One night. Free food, open bar, I'll owe you forever. I sighed, taking a sip of my now lukewarm coffee. My social calendar wasn't exactly bursting at the seams. The most exciting thing I had planned for tomorrow night was a documentary about deep-sea creatures. Fine, I replied. But you're buying me coffee for a month. Thank you. You're literally saving my life. Black tie. Pick me up at 7. I love you more than cheese fries. Coming from Maya, that was practically a marriage proposal. What I didn't know then was that agreeing to be Maya's fake date would set off a chain of events that would change everything. If I'd had any idea what was waiting for me at that gala, I might have hesitated. Or maybe I would have said yes even faster. The next evening, I stood outside Maya's apartment building, tugging uncomfortably at the collar of my rented tux. I'd spent an embarrassing amount of time getting ready, telling myself it was because I needed to look convincing as Maya's serious boyfriend. It definitely wasn't because a tiny part of me had always wondered what it would be like if we were more than friends. Maya and I had met during freshman orientation. She'd been wearing a vintage Rolling Stones t-shirt and had immediately made fun of my carefully color-coordinated outfit. Somehow, by the end of that first day, we were inseparable. There had been a moment, sophomore year, when something almost happened between us after a party. But then her ex showed up, and the moment passed. We never talked about it again. When Maya's door swung open, I momentarily forgot how to speak. She was wearing a deep blue dress that made her eyes look like the ocean at midnight. Her dark hair was swept up, revealing the constellation of freckles across her shoulders that I'd memorized years ago. You clean up nice, she said, her smile slightly nervous. Ready to be the most devoted boyfriend in history? I offered her my arm with an exaggerated bow. I've been practicing my adoring gaze all day. The venue was a historic hotel downtown, all marble columns and crystal chandeliers. As we walked in, Maya squeezed my hand. Remember, we've been together for 8 months. We met through mutual friends. You're a software developer who works remotely. Keep it vague but convincing. I am a software developer who works remotely, I reminded her. She rolled her eyes. Yes, but we didn't meet through mutual friends. We met because you spilled coffee on my favorite white shirt and then insisted on buying me lunch to apologize. That's surprisingly detailed. I've had to answer questions about you for months, she whispered as we approached a group of her colleagues. Just follow my lead. What followed was a masterclass in improvisation. Maya introduced me to everyone as the one I've been telling you all about, her hand resting comfortably on my back. I smiled and nodded and somehow managed to keep our story straight, even when her boss's wife interrogated me about my intentions. Maya's special, I told the woman, and that part wasn't acting. I knew it from the moment I met her. Maya's eyes met mine, something unreadable flickering across her face before she looked away. The evening progressed smoothly until dinner, when Maya excused herself to the restroom. I was sipping champagne, scrolling through my phone, when someone slid into the chair beside me. "So you're Maya's mystery man." I looked up to find a woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper smile watching me. Her name tag identified her as Elaine Chen, creative director. "That's me," I said, trying to sound confident. "Interesting." She tilted her head. "Because Maya's been turning down my offers to set her up with my son for months, claiming she was seeing someone serious. I was beginning to think you were imaginary." I forced a laugh. "Just busy with work. Maya's mentioned your son, though. He sounds great." She studied me over the rim of her glass. "The thing is, I've known Maya since she was an intern. She's like family. And family looks out for each other." Something in her tone made me sit up straighter. "I'm not sure what you're implying," I said carefully. "I'm not implying anything. I'm just curious why, if you've been dating for 8 months, this is the first time anyone's seen you. And why there's not a single photo of you on her social media. And why, when I mentioned your name to our mutual friend Caroline last week, she had no idea who you were." My stomach dropped. I hadn't anticipated this level of investigation. "We're private people," I managed. Elaine's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. And I'm sure you know all about Maya's promotion." "Promotion?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. Elaine's eyebrows rose triumphantly. "The one she found out about yesterday. The reason for this gala. The biggest moment of her career so far." She stood, smoothing her dress. Interesting that she wouldn't share that with her serious boyfriend. As she walked away, I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. Maya hadn't mentioned any promotion. Why would she keep something that important from me? We told each other everything. When Maya returned, her cheeks flushed from champagne, I tried to act normal. But as the night wore on, Elaine's words kept echoing in my head. By the time the speeches started, I was barely listening, lost in my own thoughts. Until I heard Maya's name called. The room erupted in applause as she made her way to the stage, looking stunned and elated. The CEO handed her a glass award, announcing that Maya would be leading their new international division, in London. London. 5,000 miles away. Maya gave a brief, emotional speech, thanking her mentors and colleagues. Her eyes found mine in the crowd, and for a second, she looked almost apologetic. Then she was surrounded by well-wishers, and I was left standing alone, trying to process what I'd just learned. My best friend was moving across the ocean, and she hadn't told me. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I smiled for photos, accepted congratulations on Maya's behalf, and tried not to let my confusion show. It wasn't until we were in the taxi heading home that I finally broke the silence. "When were you going to tell me about London?" Maya flinched, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. "I was going to tell you tonight, after the gala. I only found out for sure yesterday." "Yesterday." I tried to keep the hurt from my voice. "And you didn't think to mention it when you asked me to be your fake boyfriend? Or any time in the last 24 hours? I was processing it myself." She turned to face me, her eyes pleading. "It's a huge change. I needed time to figure out how I felt before I told anyone." "I'm not anyone, Maya. I'm your best friend." "I know." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'm sorry. I should have told you first." I was just scared. Of what? She hesitated, something vulnerable crossing her face. Of your reaction. Of making it real by saying it out loud. Of everything changing. The taxi pulled up to her building, and we sat in silence for a moment. Finally, I sighed. Congratulations on the promotion. You deserve it. I'm happy for you. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. I was happy for her. I was also terrified of what her leaving would mean for us, for me. Come upstairs, she asked quietly. We should talk properly. I nodded, following her into the building and up to her apartment. The place was so familiar, I knew which floorboards creaked, which cabinet held the good whiskey, which window had the best view of the sunrise. The thought of not being able to walk through this door whenever I wanted hit me harder than I expected. Maya kicked off her heels and poured us each a drink. We sat on opposite ends of her couch, the space between us feeling wider than usual. When do you leave? I asked. 3 weeks. She took a long sip. They want me there for the start of the new quarter. 3 weeks, I repeated, trying to imagine my life without her just down the street. No more impromptu movie nights. No more calling her when I couldn't decide what to make for dinner. No more Maya. I'm scared, Alex. Her voice was small. I've never lived anywhere else. What if I hate it? What if I'm terrible at the job? What if? Stop. I moved closer, taking her hand. You're going to be amazing. You always are. She looked up at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Come with me. The words hung in the air between us, impossible and exhilarating. What? Come with me to London. She gripped my hand tighter. You can work from anywhere. We could get a flat together, explore Europe on weekends. It would be an adventure. My heart raced at the possibility. Living with Maya, waking up to her smile every morning, building a life together in a new city, it was everything I'd never let myself want. As roommates? I asked carefully. Something shifted in her expression. If that's what you want. What do you want, Maya? She took a deep breath, setting down her glass. I want more than that. I think I always have. The world seemed to stop. 7 years of friendship, of careful boundaries and unspoken feelings, crystallized into this single moment. Why now? I whispered. Because I'm terrified of leaving you behind. Her voice broke. Because pretending to be in love with you tonight felt like the most natural thing in the world. Because I can't imagine starting this new chapter without you. I reached out, brushing a tear from her cheek. Maya. You don't have to answer now, she said quickly. It's a lot to process. The promotion, London, us. I understand if you need time. But I didn't need time. For once in my life, I knew exactly what I wanted. I leaned forward and kissed her, 7 years of wondering finally answered in the soft press of her lips against mine. She made a small sound of surprise before melting into me, her hands coming up to frame my face. When we broke apart, she was smiling through her tears. Is that a yes? It's a, I've been in love with you since sophomore year and I'm not letting you move across the ocean without me. She laughed, the sound bright and full of promise. That works too. The next morning, I woke up in Maya's bed, her head on my chest and sunlight streaming through the curtains. For a moment, I thought I might have dreamed everything, the gala, the promotion, the confession, the kiss. But then she stirred, looking up at me with sleepy eyes and a smile that made my heart skip. Morning, she murmured, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. Still want to move to London with me? I pulled her closer, marveling at how right it felt to hold her like this. Try and stop me. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of preparations. I gave notice on my apartment, told my parents I was moving abroad, and applied for a passport. Maya and I spent every spare moment together, alternating between practical planning and making up for 7 years of lost time. There were moments of doubt, of course. Late at night, I'd wonder if we were moving too fast, if we were risking our friendship on a romantic relationship that might not work. But then Maya would look at me a certain way, or laugh at one of my terrible jokes, and I'd remember that this wasn't some impulsive decision. This was the culmination of years of knowing and loving each other. The night before our flight, we had a going-away party at our favorite bar. Surrounded by friends wishing us well, Maya pulled me aside, her expression serious. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely audible over the music. "For what?" "For saying yes. To being my fake date. To coming with me. To us." She squeezed my hand. "I know it's a leap of faith." I thought about how one simple decision had changed everything, how agreeing to help a friend had led me to the greatest adventure of my life. "Best leap I've ever taken," I told her, and knew it was true. The next morning, as our plane lifted off, Maya rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Ready for our next chapter?" Looking down at our intertwined fingers, I felt a certainty I'd never experienced before. Whatever happened in London, whatever challenges we faced, whatever unexpected turns our story took, we would face it together. And that was all that mattered. So if you're watching this and wondering whether you should take that chance, make that change, or tell that person how you really feel, do it. The most ordinary day can become the first day of an extraordinary life. All you have to do is say yes. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of your own leap of faith, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that might just inspire your next big decision. Because sometimes, the most life-changing adventures begin with the simplest words, "Fine. But you're buying me coffee for a month."